News coming out of the Pentagon about the possibility of an Israeli attack on Iran. Let's go right to our Pentagon correspondent, Barbara Starr. Barbara, what's going on?
Well, Wolf, we have now confirmed from a senior administration official, Defense Secretary Leon Panetta believes there is a strong likelihood that Israel may strike Iran's nuclear program sometime this spring. Why does the defense secretary believe this? The Israelis have been talking about a so-called zone of immunity. What the Israelis believe is that by this spring, that is their best chance to strike Iran's program with their weapons. After that, they believe Iran will have made enough progress that Israeli weapons cannot get to Iran's nuclear effort. It would only be U.S. weapons. This is the Panetta calculus. He has made these statements to the very respected journalist David Ignatius of the Washington Post, traveling with the secretary in Brussels at that NATO meeting. The secretary was asked about this. He has refused comment. But we have confirmed with an administration official, indeed, Secretary Panetta now has made these statements. He believes these are the potential Israeli intentions, and he believes that the intelligence that the U.S. has gathered about Israeli intentions backs this up at this point. Wolf?
There was an amazing article, the cover story of the New York Times Sunday magazine about Israel's intentions by the Israeli journalist Ronen Bergman, who also concludes at the end of that article that he believes the Israelis will, in fact, launch an attack sometime in the coming months. So if Panetta is saying this, he's saying something similar to what this Israeli journalist wrote in the New York Times over the weekend. But here's the suspicion that some folks have, and let me run it by you, Barbara, and see what you think, that this is all designed psychological warfare, if you will, to put pressure on the Iranians to come around, to comply with the United Nations, the IAEA inspectors, and back down in the face of what is perceived to be an imminent threat from Israel. What are they saying about that?
Yeah, absolutely, Wolf. You are correct. There is a very strong school of thought that that is partially what the Israeli intentions are. We have seen Israel go through these cycles of making very aggressive statements about their intentions and then sort of backing off a bit when the United States or the West moves ahead with sanctions or other actions against other pressures against Iran. So that is a very key point here. You are absolutely right. Look, this is intelligence, espionage, spying at the highest levels, potential military action of crisis proportions. So there's a lot of gamesmanship going on here. It should be remembered. It was General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, that just days ago said any U.S. military action against Israel would be premature. This is not something the U.S. wants to do. But right now, their key concern is exactly what are the Israeli intentions? Is Israel just once again making these statements, or is there something else going on here? That's what they're trying to determine. That is part, I believe, of what Panetta is trying to reflect, the great uncertainty in the coming months.
But the breaking news is Panetta telling David Ignatius of the Washington Post that an Israeli strike could take place. These specific, first time I've heard this kind of specific mention, April, May of June. We're in February now, so there's not a whole lot of time. It's a little surprising that Panetta is saying this publicly right now, at least to David Ignatius. But what one suspicion is that maybe he's trying to put some pressure on the Iranians right now to rethink their strategy. The Iranians have been threatening to shut off the Strait of Hormuz as well. The other question is how much cooperation, if the Israeli military were to take action, would there actually be with the U.S. military?
Well, that's a very interesting military dilemma that you pose. The question for the Israeli Air Force will be, can its manned aircraft get past Iranian air defenses, get into Iranian airspace, bomb, and get out before Iranian air defenses, Iranian surface-to-air missiles, Iranian radars pick up word that they are in the air and that they are in Iranian airspace. The general thinking is that Israel, if it came to that, would in fact take the risk of using manned aircraft rather than drones. It's an awful long way to send a drone, but it becomes a very tricky proposition. A lot of people say that Iran has an aging air defense system along that coastline, that you don't have to worry about it all that much. But if you are a pilot in the Israeli Air Force, in the U.S. Air Force, on a combat mission against Iran. You worry about just about everything that could be coming your way. So that's going to be a key question. Would the U.S. know about it when the planes are already in the air? That may be too late for President Obama to try and convince the Israelis to change their mind. So it gets back to this question, Israeli military and Israeli political intentions. Is this real, or as you point out, is this Israel once again trying to pressure the West? It's this spring time frame now that is so interesting, because even Israeli officials have publicly said they believe the window is closing in the spring in terms of Iran's progress on its nuclear program. After that, they're not sure that their own weapons can destroy it, can even get to it, Wolf.
Barbara, hold on. Fran Townsend, our national security contributor, the former Homeland Security